Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
All right, let's dive right in, because there's something happening north of the border that nobody's really paying attention to yet. The Toronto Blue Jays just signed Kasuma Okamoto, and while the rest of baseball is sleeping on this move, I'm telling you right now, this guy is about to make a lot of people look foolish for overlooking him. Look, I get it. When the signing happened, most of us were like, oh, cool, another solid contact hitter from Japan. But once you actually dig into what this guy was doing in NPB, it's a completely different story. We're not talking about some slap hitter who's just going to move runners over. This is a legitimate middle-of-the-order bat that checks every single box you want in a modern MLB hitter. Let me paint you a picture here. In terms of OPS plus compared to every position player in NPB, Okamoto was literally in the 100th percentile. Number one, the best in Japanese baseball at overall production. But here's where it gets really interesting. His isolated power sits at the 98th percentile. That's pure slugging ability separated from batting average. The dude can absolutely mash. Now, power's great and all, but plenty of guys can hit bombs while striking out 200 times a year. Not Okamoto. His strikeout percentage puts him in the top 10 percentile, and his walk rate, 99th percentile. Think about what that means. He knows the strike zone, he's patient enough to take his walks, but when he gets his pitch, he's not missing it. That's the kind of approach that translates to any level of baseball. And this matters so much for Toronto specifically. Last year's Blue Jays offense had moments where they were too aggressive, chasing everything, expanding the zone at the worst times. Okamoto doesn't do that. He's disciplined, he works counts, and he passes the baton when he needs to. But he's also got the pop to do real damage when the situation calls for it. Let's talk numbers for a second. During his time in NPB, Okamoto was consistently hitting 30 home runs a year. In 2024, he only played about half the season and still put up 15 bombs. Extrapolate that to a full season, and you're looking at 30 plus again. This wasn't a one-year fluke either. He was doing this year after year against the best pitching Japan had to offer. And speaking of elite pitching, here's a fun little stat that should get Blue Jays fans excited. In 8 career at-bats against Yoshinobu Yamamoto, the same Yamamoto who's now dominating in the MLB, Okamoto went 4 for 8 with a home run, 2 RBIs, and a 1.375 OPS. Tiny sample size? Absolutely. But it shows you that when facing NPB's absolute best, he didn't just survive, he thrived. The thing that really stands out to me is that Okamoto doesn't sacrifice one skill for another. Usually in baseball, you see guys who trade contact for power or vice versa. He's elite at both. And here's why that gives me so much confidence. Even if there's some adjustment period to MLB pitching, he's got multiple tools to fall back on. Maybe the power numbers dip slightly, but he's still making tons of contact. Maybe the batting average drops a bit, but he's still crushing home runs. The floor is so high with this guy because of how well-rounded his skill set is. What really surprised me while researching this was how much Okamoto flew under the radar compared to guys like Munetaka Murakami or Hiroto Takahashi. I kept hearing about them during the offseason, but Okamoto? Crickets. And now looking at everything he brings to the table, I'm shocked. This wasn't a bigger story. The narrative was that he's just a solid contact guy, but he's so much more than that. Looking at projections, Steamer has him at a .251, average .770 OPS, 22 homers, and 69 RBIs. Honestly, that feels conservative. I think the average will be higher, the power will be there for 25 to 30 bombs, and the OPS will push closer to .800. There's been some really interesting analysis comparing him to MLB players who signed similar contracts, and the names that keep popping up are guys like Anthony Santander, Christian Walker, Cody Bellinger when healthy, and even Teoscar Hernandez. These aren't just solid players, these are impact bats. And that Teoscar comparison, that's the one that keeps bouncing around in my head. Could Okamoto be the next Japanese middle-of-the-order thumper for Toronto? The guy who provides real protection in that lineup? I genuinely think there's a path for that to happen. The Blue Jays needed this after losing Bo Bichette. They need someone to stabilize that offense over the next 4 years, and everything about Okamoto's profile suggests he can be that guy. His approach fits perfectly with what the team needs: patience, power, and production. I'm not saying he's going to be an all-star in year one, but the upside is real and the floor is way higher than people think. So yeah, while everyone's focused on the big, flashy signings elsewhere, keep your eyes on Toronto. Kasuma Okamoto is about to shock a lot of people this season.